Several years ago, a friend of mine loaned me a DVD that he had been watching. Uh, he knew I was interested in surfing because we'd both been surfers when we were much younger in Southern California. And the name of this documentary was called Riding Giants. And it was about this very elite group of surfers that would travel to very specific places on the planet where these enormous waves, 30 feet or higher, would occasionally occur, usually several times a year. There'd be places on the planet where these 30-foot storm waves would occur. And he had spent, the one fellow who was being interviewed that really struck me had been surfing for 20, 25 years, had been in competitions, was really considered a world-class surfer. But this was the first time that he'd ever gone to a situation where he'd be surfing and riding one of these boomers or giants. And he said it was a most remarkable experience because the waves moved much faster than he was used to, the more 10, 15-foot waves that he'd practiced on. And he said it was a really remarkable experience, and he said, you have to understand that right at the moment you're catching the wave, the noise is so astounding, it's like standing 2 feet away from a freight train rushing by you. You're getting buffeted around by the wind trying to knock you off your surfboard, and your surfboard itself is vibrating a little bit like you're in an earthquake. And then you look over the edge and you realize it's 30 or 40 feet down the front of this basically virtually vertical face that you're going to have to ride down. And he actually said the first time I did this, I kind of thought to myself, was this a very good idea? Right when he was at that point. And he made a couple very interesting points. He said because these waves move so fast, you have to swim as hard as you can to catch the wave. And the ride itself is so buffeted that it takes every single ounce of your energy, every bit of your strength, all your concentration, and you have to call on every bit of your experience that you've had previously to be able just to stay on your board and ride it. And the options aren't very good if you fall off. It usually means you end up getting boomed along with the wave when it crashes. And after he'd ridden his first wave, he said he was actually so exhausted a friend had to tow him into the beach. He couldn't even paddle his surfboard anymore. And he actually made a couple interesting comments, and it struck me because it reminded me very much of the spiritual path. He said, you know, it's interesting, but the bigger the wave, the faster you have to be moving to be able to catch it. And he said, in fact, most people nowadays, if they're going to be riding giants, riding these giant boomer waves, what they will do is actually have somebody on a jet ski, you know, one of these things that looks like a motorcycle that you ride on the water that can go 20 or 30 miles an hour, tow you up to the point at which you're going to catch the wave so you'll be moving fast enough to catch it. The second thing that he said is that it's remarkable, but on smaller waves, you have a lot of option about how you ride the wave. You can do tricks on it, you can just ride it simply, many different options. But the bigger the wave, the fewer your options. In fact, it's very obvious on these giant waves who's in charge. The wave dictates everything, and there's only one way to ride it. Well, it struck me this is very much like the process of being on the spiritual path, that the process of joining ourselves to this torrent of joyful, blissful energy that is incredibly powerful. Remember, this is the spiritual power that allowed Jesus and the other great Christ-like saints to raise the dead and perform other miracles. This is the same power that we're asking fill us and flow through us and to transform us to become Christ-like ourselves. When we're in that flow, that tremendous river of consciousness, we feel unending joy, and it feels like it will never, ever stop. and that has been our only reality for our entire existence. When we came into existence as a soul, and when we leave, we will at our core be awake in this profound joy